Hello, thanks for watching. This week we'll be looking at this person's palm. Complete mystery here. Just been sent this person's palm and asked to do a reading. So here we are. So we've got a square palm and long fingers, typically an air hand, and air hands often have their fingers kind of spaced out. This represents someone who is quite a bit of an extrovert, really, a bit of an adventurer. That's also demonstrated by the thumb, and the gap between the head and the heart line is quite a large gap. This is quite an open person, bit of an explorer. At the same time, this is not an impulsive or rash adventurer. This is certainly someone who likes to do things in their own time. And I say that because the life and the headline here, if you look, they're joined until well, I'd say around the age of late 20s, even mid to late 20s, maybe 26ish. I mean, this really does show someone. It's the sign of the yak in Tibetan palmistry. They'll do things at their own pace, push them, and you'll meet resistance. So there's a lot going on with the fingers. Let's just go over this. There's quite a bit to cover, so I want to get over this, go over it quickly. Now, Apollo here, I mean, all round Apollo is just, it's a nice. I've just made a curious image there. It's a strong Apollo finger, which represents. I think this person was raised by a strong mother figure, and the tip of Apollo is quite bit of a beast, really, and I think that shows that they've got some artistic skill. Now Jupiter, when you compare, you've got some conic fingertips there with Saturn and Apollo, but then Jupiter is quite sort of flattened, and it's not as long, it's not as high, it's not as far-reaching as Apollo, which shows some sort of inferiority complex, and I think this person was perhaps bullied, as this demonstrates here. This sort of missing segment of their lifeline. We'll go over that in a bit. So we've got some contradictory elements here, because whilst these fingers are kind of splayed out, this curiosity of the world, this eagerness to explore and be quite extroverted, you've also got this lack of self-esteem as well, this lack of self-confidence. So this person has confidence in their own actions and perhaps their own words, but in themselves they don't have a great deal of inner confidence. And as I've said before, anywhere where there is imbalance in the palm, there will be compensation, and this person compensates for this inferiority complex with eating, I believe, and that's also characterized by the space, the gaps, the large gaps in between the fingers. This is some sort of eating disorder. This person overeats. I think is quite an indulgent person, is also evident by the massive Venus mount. This person enjoys the simple pleasures in life, and also this, in particular, this gap here represents an absent father. So I think this person was potentially bullied by their father, but their mother, represented by Apollo, was quite a strong and stable figure that supported them through their early years. So, and also Jupiter leans, I don't know if you can see there, but the tip of it particularly leans towards the thumb. This is often leaders have this, and they're always trying to get the message across. They feel like the message that they're trying to create is not quite being heard, and it's this constant need to get that message out. And also the tip leaning towards the thumb, it shows again this is an extroverted quality. So whilst they have confidence in their actions, not necessarily in themselves. Now Saturn is nice and strong. It's a good length. It's a good length. It's also straight, and there's a good thickness to it, and especially in comparison to the other fingers. So I believe this person has a good sort of hard-working ethic, good moral compass, and ability to, that inherent ability to know right from wrong. The Mercury finger is not necessarily short, but it is quite low set, and it's set away from the other fingers. I think this person is a bit of a loner. I think they were especially a loner as a child. I think they felt alone, and I think they still probably do. And I think they appreciate a bit of alone time, and I don't know why I get the feeling this person likes golf. Partly, I think, because of this pronounced dark patch here on the thumb. This is, I might have said it before, this angle on the thumb here is timing, and often golfers have quite a pronounced sort of part of the ball of the thumb here, and then there's other kind of signs like the callus underneath Mercury as well. So I don't know, I might be wrong, bit of a hunch, but I think this person might be a bit of a golfer, and that also ties in with this sort of expressing themselves alone, in the outside. You can kind of do, that's the sort of activity you can do alone, and it's good for your mental health, and often people with a little finger that leans quite far away, they like to go on lone walks, like to go fishing alone. This is a form of expression, as the little finger represents. And the only unfortunate thing about this print here, and I do love a print because it tells you all sorts of information a photograph won't, is that the thumb here, this section of the thumb, the tip of the thumb, you can't see it. So a person ideally should have equal lengths in both sections of the thumb, and that represents logic and willpower. And so if you've got an equal length of logic and will, then you have the correct amount of willpower to carry out your ideas. Now, if you've got too much logic and not enough will, you're an ideas person, bouncing from one idea to the other, never having the drive or conviction or commitment to carry out those ideas. And on the flip side, if you've got too much will and not enough logic, well, you mold the world with nothing but action, with little thought, and it's difficult to get an idea as to this character makeup without really being able to see the full length of that thumb. But I do think this person has a fairly good balance of both. And what's also interesting about the thumb here is you've got this eye of Ganesha. So Ganesha is the Hindu elephant god, and in Tibetan palmistry, this symbol shows it's a great karmic sign. It shows that you've been kind to animals in a past life, and whatever your beliefs, it's certainly a sign that of goodwill to others. So in Tibetan palmistry, it's a sign that you've been kind to elephants in a past life, and therefore you've been blessed with good karma in this life. There are 4 different types of karma in Indian beliefs. I'm not going to go over them all. I haven't got time. However, in analysing this palm, I feel karma is an unavoidable subject. It's not something I like to delve into too much because I try to keep it quite sort of logical and analytical and keep the cosmic mysticism side of things out of it. But the more I looked into this palm, the more I couldn't deny there are certain things about certain palms which destiny does seem to play a stronger role in than others, and it seems that this person has over 7-year periods throughout their life, the events unfold, and this is often seen in people's palms where they have more of a fixed sort of destiny, so to speak. I mean, generally speaking, we're all dealt the certain cards at the beginning of our life. So here is the beginning of this person's destiny, and then after that, it's up to us to kind of make of it what we will. But there are certain episodes in a person's life which are just going to happen anyway, it seems, and it's how they deal with those episodes that have reverberating effects on the next sort of stage and perhaps the next life after this one, because apparently in Indian palmistry, which all palmistry kind of stems from really, so it's a good idea to take note of these things. We are a combination of all of our past lives combined. So on the subject of karma in this person's palm, there's a few things I wanted to mention, but I'm just going to go over the earlier years of this person's life. I think as I say, that this is sort of missing here, the gap shown underneath Jupiter. It didn't quite sort of carry out the print properly, and that's evident of sensitivity. So sorry, the lines tied together like this, the head and the lifeline, for such a long period is sensitivity and caution. Often seen in the hands of people who are quite anxious, and this is quite a full hand, as in there's just lots going on here, and that's what we call a full hand, often stressed, anxious, and often gut problems as well, susceptible to illnesses and things. So I might have already said this earlier on, but this lifeline and headline tied together for so long is the sign of the yak. They will do what they want to do in their own time, and if pushed to do things, they'll end up being slower. You just meet resistance. They don't like taking instruction from others, and they do things in their own way, in their own time. And but this early sort of lifeline here missing is not a particularly good omen. It shows difficulties during latency, a feeling of helplessness, and a feeling alone as well, which ties in with this lack of a father figure as well. There's lots of downward sort of strokes from the lifeline, which are all telling of sad stories in themselves. And I've just noticed actually here you've got a bit of a square here going on on the lifeline. Squares are excellent signs in palmistry. They're some of the most promising. And you also got one down here as well. And I actually think they correspond with each other, because you've got the destiny line over here, and I think they moved when they were quite young. And it's almost as if after moving at this quite a young age, at the age of around 15, they've got this support from, I believe, most likely their mother or a mother figure, which supported their decision to carve their career and success, which are both intertwined at this age. And then after this, so that's the first sort of karmic, well, it's the second karmic year. Their first karmic year was 8 years old, which you can't really see here, but I know this because backtracking other karmic years, the first visible one really is 15, and then you've got this kind of explosion here on the lifeline. I don't know what this was, but it was a traumatic event, and their Mars lines, which are sometimes known as sort of guardian angel lines, they're often they help people in times of upheaval, illness particularly. They're great with supporting people's immune systems, as well. I don't know what this was exactly, but it was an extremely sort of traumatic time for this person. I think it taught them quite a bit. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the lifeline at the beginning of the lifeline, you've got these lines all coming down here, and it sort of reaches down into Mars negative, which is the area of anger and motivation, and so I think this left them quite angry. Whatever was, I think this was their relationship with their father. So perhaps this was some sort of quarrel at home. And these are all emotional, these are sad stories in themselves, each of these lines dropping down from the heart line. And I think all of these events has really shaped this person, particularly later on. So this person, from their sort of from 22 to 29, particularly those years here, as seen in there, this is their career, and this is the success, and you can see the success is very powerful here, and it's intertwined with the career line as well. From this period, around this time, these are excellent years of success and in their career as well. And a career line that stems from Luna like this is surely someone who has known great popularity and will do throughout their whole life, but also someone whose wealth waxes and wanes throughout their lives, and they have to be quite adaptable to that, and they have to come up with new ideas all the time in order to keep afloat, and that's why I kind of wanted to look at the equality in the thumb to get a clearer idea as to who this person is. Okay, so 22 to 29, excellent years, and that 29th year is, again, it's another kind of karmic year, very positive one. So interestingly, you've got this deep line coming from Venus over here. Venus is the place of love, the pleasures in life, family, security, sensuality, and we've got this very thick line tearing through Venus here, and it crashes into the lifeline at the age of 50, I believe that's 50, and we'll get to that. But before that happens, coming off this same line, we've got another line that comes up here, and it cuts through the lifeline, and so here's the lifeline and the career line at the same age, and that's 36. And again, this is a karmic year, this is an obstacle. This is not a good thing, but sometimes obstacles create opportunities. When one door closes, another opens, and that might have been what happens here. This doesn't stop this person's career, but it does seem to have had an effect on their happiness, on their success, and you can see that their career line, they've got a separate sort of career line here as well, is interfered with, so it's kind of trying up here and then begins in a separate place. So it's like they lost a job, potentially they were fired, started somewhere else. I'm not entirely certain, but to have two career lines like this is it's often people with a very strong sense of destiny, as I say, someone who doesn't really have much free will, and their path is quite sort of strongly sort of set out for them. And again here, if you look closely, and I've only just noticed this, you've got another kind of square there, a bit faint, and that's again around that age of 36. There's a need to protect here because this was quite a traumatic experience for this person. And if you notice, the heart line changes angle, and that occurs a bit later on. Well, maybe it is 36 that happens, actually. Maybe that's what that represents here, because that looks about the right age on the heart line. So it might have been that this, whatever this was, that comes from the family here. It could be that this person's father died and they never repaired their relationship. I'm just kind of spitballing a bit here, because when you lose a parent and you didn't have a proper bond with them, the saddest thing about it is that the parent themselves missed out on the opportunity to be a parent. And so there's two things you're grieving for. You're grieving for the loss of the father you never had, and also you know, the loss of your father, even though you might not have had that bond with them. It's still your father, and you've still lost them. It's still very traumatic. And there's all these things that you wanted to do and say, and it's not possible now. But what this kind of explosion here on the sun line means, I feel like it's because this, as I say, this episode that occurred at 36, that's where that hits there. But then you've got this second explosion on the heart line here, and I can't help but feel like this is some sort of scandal. I don't entirely know what's going on. And perhaps this person inherited, if I am right and their father did die, maybe they inherited money and there's a dispute there or something like that. I don't know. But we can see a sun line stemming from the heart line, and that again coincides with this person's artistic skill. We've got a career line coming from Luna. That's someone that craves a career with an audience. And so these things combined, I can't help but feel that this person will be, or has been, I think this person is not at the time that this print was taken, not young and not old. I think they were around this age. I think they were around the age of 50-ish, perhaps late 40s. So so again, at age 50, and that's this here, is this another karmic year. I think their life takes a completely different course after this. And if you look at the lifeline at this age, which is right here, this is where this line comes in from Venus. And at first I thought, well, this person's lost someone in their life, and you know, potential heartbreak. But I don't see any signs of heartbreak on the heart line. I do, however, see, as I say, their emotional outlook changes. The heart line reaches towards Jupiter. That's always telling of a person's nature. And as I say, you know, they care for animals and others. They've got a sympathy line coming up here. I mean, the heart line itself forks underneath both Jupiter and Saturn. That's someone with a that's been brought up with, you know, that knows right and wrong, and that's also evident in a straight and thick Saturn. So I'm not sort of questioning their character, but in any way, I think this person is a warm and a generous soul. I think that they change their outlook after this period. They move, it seems they move away. They travel away to get away from it all. I think this period at age 50, it was just a sort of turning point in their life, and they just thought, enough. I don't want to be in the limelight anymore. And success line is not as strong. It's not as making them as much money, but it leans more towards Mercury. There's still a success line continuing, so this indicates they've got perhaps sort of royalties, or I don't know, they're renting out properties or something like that. But a success line that veers towards Mercury like this does show that wealth still accumulates, but they're concentrating on their happiness in a different area of their life. And also, something that I think is noteworthy, the lifeline itself is quite thick. It starts out thin, then it gets quite thick. And remember I said earlier on, this person has a potential eating disorder and compensates for the inferiority complex by potentially overeating. Could be wrong about that, but I'm quite sure they have some sort of eating disorder. And I think the reason why I think the person was late 40s around the time of this print is because of what this lifeline is showing at this time, in conjunction with what the third phalange of Jupiter is showing. So at the time of this person's print, at the time of in this person's life, their life, these life energies are sort of struggling to carry the burden of the weight of their body. And after this moment in their 50s, it's sort of life changing, and the life, thins out again. I mean, you could also say that this person was, full of life, that they're working very hard, you could say, and they were enjoying life to the full. And then after this point in their 50s, they no longer had the same sort of sense, the same sort of reason to live, which is what my first thoughts were, because I thought, well, they've lost a loved one and they're heartbroken. But actually, I'm not sure that's the case. I think they changed their diet, and I think they changed their lifestyle quite drastically. And I think they travel, as is evident by these kind of exploring fingertips as well, the overall adventuring thumb. So there really is a lot to say. Also, you've got this, it from the heart line, this event at 36, you kind of got this line that comes away and travels down into Luna, the place of restlessness and travel and imagination. So I'm not sure if this person utilized these events in their lives to within their career. I have no idea. I've been racking my brains about what this person does as a career. I don't entirely know. I'm still not certain. But as I have said, I do think they have an audience, and they admire glory and that audience more than money itself, I think. And I think they are quite artistic in some way as well. I mean, I was leaning towards musician at first, but then normally with musicians' palms, especially in a palm print, you can kind of see an absence in this part of the palm here, where the muscles kind of compensate, either side of that. And you've got that a little bit here, so perhaps a musician, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But anyway, what else is there to say? So health-wise, they've got lots of upward strokes all along these fingers here. I don't see it on the tip of Mercury, so that's good. So no thyroid imbalance. But this is a sign of adrenal burnout. And also there are a couple of lines coming in at the bottom of Luna here. This is potential colon or rectal problems as well. So overall, I see here a warm-hearted, courageous adventurer of a sort that plods along at their own pace, can't really be pushed into doing anything. I think they recognise the hurt in others, and they so you've got some signs of healing, a healer, as such as doctors and nurses, social workers, carers. They all have these kinds of close together upward strokes on Mercury, and then also combined with this line of sympathy line or intuition line that's promising to touch the heart line. You've got someone here who, as a result of the things they've been through in their life, you know, these certain events and losses they've been through, they've got an ability to reflect and counsel others. You also think they have a bit of a side to them that craves excitement, and obviously the pleasures in life, but I think they've managed to, or come to the conclusion that they needed to change their diet. So that's about everything I think there is to say with this person. So I hope that answers any questions here. It's not a celebrity's palm. Well, it could be a celebrity's palm because of all the things I've mentioned. It certainly, there are signs of fame on this palm that I've mentioned. But yeah, a bit different this week. But I just wanted to use this opportunity to show, you know, what the palm is saying. So I don't know who this person is, so nothing about what I know about the person has come through in this reading, if you see what I'm saying. All I'm saying is what the palm is showing me, and I hope it all makes sense, in particular to the person that sent me this. And you know, I've learned a lot this last week, in particular to how I'm doing these readings. You know, when I did this, the Michael Jackson reading, I looked over, after reading a comment, I looked over an article in Terry Stokes' book and compared it with my video, and it was basically the same. So I plagiarized Terry there, and I feel bad about that. And it made me realize a few things. And so doing this was a great exercise in stepping away from the things that I've just been so, you know, that's so ingrained in me, I suppose. So it's taught me as well to look and think more before just putting a video out there. So with this palm, I've been looking at it for the past couple of days, taking lots of notes, and like with Michael Jackson's palm, I looked at it afterwards, and there were loads of little things I forgot to mention, which would have made it more my own rather than just sort of regurgitating what I've learned. And you know, so yeah, and it was the same with last week's reading as well. Like after looking at the rocks palm, I thought, oh, there's loads of other little bits that I forgot to mention. So I'm going to put an edit in the description of those videos, and make an effort in future to make things more my own and primary source. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this week's reading. If you've got a palm you'd like me to read, please send it to me in an email to this address here, and I will read away like this person. You don't have to tell me anything about the person's palm. Just send me the palm and I will say what the palm says. Alright, so thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, all that jazz, and I'll see you next week.